my number one strategy, and I'm going to include a video. The video doesn't have any sound because I just want you all to have a visual of what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. So right there is the sensory brush. Yeah, okay, yeah. So right there, that's the sensory brush. That is my number one sensory strategy when it comes to sensory defensive behavior. So when I evaluate a parent, I mentioned this last week. Um, Sometimes before I even start the standardized assessment, sometimes I'll hear the child in the waiting room having a really hard time. Maybe they're having a tantrum, they're crying a lot, um, they're having challenges with transition. Then the parent comes to the back, and I start to interview the parent, and the parent is letting me know. Let me pause this. And the parent is letting me know that they have a poor diet, and they're not getting enough nutrients, maybe sleep disturbances, uh, the brushing protocol. I have a video on my YouTube channel. It's the same video that I will send my parents so they can have something to refer to. Um, One of the reasons why the brushing protocol works, if you have a child that has food aversions, because a lot of those kids have a lot of anxiety. So the brushing protocol, that deep pressure, has a calming effect on the brain. So therefore, um, they're calm and they can participate in non-preferred activities. Okay. Um, the brushing protocol, I have lost count with how many families, with how many kids I have put on this protocol. And it works so well that when a parent, and it's rare, but when a parent, like, you know, maybe after a week or whenever they come back and I start treating the child after they're approved for therapy, and when they're not telling me that the child is making any progress, I'm thinking, okay, so did you follow the protocol? Are you still brushing the child? That's how well this protocol works. Okay, I know there are exceptions, so maybe there's one child or a few children that it won't work on, but that's my number one strategy is the brushing protocol. Okay, let me start the video. And so the next picture, or the next video you're going to see, is the compression vest. Okay. So once again, this is a deep pressure. This vest, I get all of my vests from Fun and Function. And what I'm showing you right here is well, first of all, the Velcro is really strong. I've had these vests for years. You wash them, you can let them hang dry. They dry pretty quickly. And I typically remove half of the weights. So it comes with weights. And if you saw that, let me back it up so you can see that again. So you see how I have the weights on the other side, because it's not so much about weighing a child down. You want the pressure. So for me personally, I remove half of the weights that's in the vest. And so those weights are probably, I think that's a size small vest, and the weights are probably just a quarter pound. Yeah, very light. So after I brush a child, depending on the child's needs, I don't do this to all of the kids, but this would be for a kid that is really They really have a lot of challenges. I would brush them and then I would put this compression vest on them. This is what I do as soon as they come into the session. And then after I get the vest on them, um, then we'll do some music. We'll do some preferred activities, whatever they want to do. When they come in, I typically ask the child, "What do you want to do today?" Because I'm using a sensory integration approach. I want them to feel like they're in control. I have all these toys and games. Which room do you want to go to? Do you want to go to the sensory gym? What do you want to do? Because I'm also trying to build a rapport with them. And so, whatever music that I use a lot of music during my session. So, let's say, for instance, I really like Madman, and that's a song from the Handwriting Without Tears program. So, I will play the Madman song, and I also have the Madman figure where you could put him together. So after um, I do the Madman song, so then I will have a plate, and I would put Madman together using food. Okay, so this is how we're going to get into them interacting with food. I'm not expecting them to eat the food. I'm not even really expecting them to yeah, hey Rain. I will answer your questions at the end. You said, what is a good weight percentage for the weighted compression vest? It's really not about the weight, it's really the pressure. And so with that vest, it was just a quarter pound. Yeah, very, very light. And so right here, um, I am making a happy face. So you see, I'm using applesauce, and it's the sugar-free applesauce. And I'm cutting up some bananas. And so basically, with this, I want the child to, I have some raisins to pick up a raisin and place it in the place of the nose. Okay, and this is something that you can do with your child every day. They don't have to eat this. I would have preferred and non-preferred foods on the plate. Okay, and so you see how I'm going to start to build a happy face. Okay, if they love cars, let's build a car out of the food. The goal is to get the child to interact with the food. Okay. Interact means they're going to pick it up and they're going to touch it. When the activity is over, they're going to help me put the food in the trash. Sometimes they may need hand over hand, but I probably would not do hand over hand during the first couple of sessions because I'm still trying to build a rapport with the child. And so right there, you see, I used, let's see, I used graham crackers, and I think the head was a ginger snap because that's crunchy, pretzels. And I usually have that container on my desk, crunchy snacks, because that's calming to the brain. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're going to get them to interact with the food. Oh, another thing I wanted to say is I usually don't require my kids to sit down at the table. And so right there, I have the weighted blanket. If I do have them sit down, I will put a weighted blanket on their lap, and that would help them to remain calm. And then of course they're wearing the vest as well, but every child is different. Some kids, they don't want that vest on them. The they may not want that weighted blanket either. But what I was going to say before I start the video is a lot of times my kids, I let them run around. So when they see me putting the food together, how I was at the table and I was getting the happy face together, they're watching and they know, oh my goodness, she's getting the food out, and they're on the other side of the room. And so I'll just ask them, will you come over and will you place the nose on the face for me? Um, and sometimes I have to go and take them by the hand, encourage them to come over to the table. Can you just at least stand here and watch me put it together? So this is how you would grade the activity, okay? Because during the next session, and if you're doing this at home during the next day or the next week, eventually you would want them to pick it up and place the food item. You would want them to touch it, and usually they'll run away. And I'm okay. I'm okay with that, because I think it's too much to have them sit and interact with the food. I want them to have some freedom. So I'm not going to work on all of that at one time. Okay. And okay, so let me start the video. So this next activity that I'm doing. So this is related to food aversions as well. I don't always work on food because, like I said, food aversions, they don't take place in a vacuum. So typically, if a child if they're having issues with food textures, they likely have issues with wet and messy activities. So here I have shaving cream. I added some food color to it, and I was so happy it did not stain my table. That's just a table from IKEA. And I used the, I think it's the Betty Crocker gel color. And so, we need to get the child to participate in highly textured activities, okay? And they can work on their pre-writing symbols while you're doing this. The child may not want to put their hand in it, and that's okay. Sometimes I'll tell them, just point your finger. Can you just point your finger and let's make a vertical line? And they may do that. And you will find that when they build their tolerance to engage in highly textured activities, you'll find that um, their food tolerance, their tolerance to eat food will improve. So right here I have a bin full of dry rice. Okay. And a lot of my kids, they love their letters and numbers. So this is motivating for them to submerge their hand in the dry rice. These are things that you probably already have at home. You have to have your dry tactile bin. And then here I have these Orbeez. Those are the water beads. So I will sometimes I will hide things in there, and the child has to submerge their hand in to pull things out. And then right here, I have the kinetic sand. I love the kinetic sand. And you will find that some kids they may love that. And so that's fine too, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to expand their um, their ability to eat a lot of different foods and tolerate a lot of different textures that they touch and interact with. And I don't know if that, nope, I don't think that's, yeah, and that was the end of the video. Okay. Um, let's see. Keep a diary. Please keep a diary. And don't ignore the small wins. Okay. So if your child, if they would gag, like if they opened Play-Doh and they would gag just with the smell of that, and then maybe a month later they're able to open it up and not gag, you need to write that down. It's no different than your child's therapist. Whenever we see your child, we document what they did in the session that day. And sometimes I'm even surprised because sometimes I have to see progress. I have to see progress with all of my kids. And sometimes I may get impatient and I'm thinking, man, I'm not seeing the progress that I want with my kid. And then I will read through my progress notes. And sometimes I'm even surprised because I would say, oh my God, I forgot that this child um, was crying the whole session. And now this child only cries the first 3 minutes of the session. And oh, wow, this child, before in the past, they wouldn't even make their pre-writing symbols in the shaving cream. And now they're doing their entire name in the shaving cream. And now they're actually smelling the food. Okay. So you want to make sure you keep a diary so you can document all of the small wins, and so what's working. Okay, and then last but not least, so that's my approach. Those are the strategies, and that is my approach, and I build on that. And depending on how long the child has had these food aversions, you can't expect treatment to turn your child around in a month. It could take up to a year or longer, okay? But as long as you're seeing that steady progress, no matter how small it is. And so the last thing I want to talk about is a Pediasure, because my son, Pediasure really saved my son, and it saved me from a lot of heartache. My son is 24 years old now, so he has Down syndrome and autism spectrum disorder. But when he was a toddler, he stopped eating, and so since he wasn't getting the proper nutrients, he was always sick. He was always sick, and I'm talking about being hospitalized. I remember in the early 2000s, there was an upper respiratory virus going around, and he caught it, and he was hospitalized for probably 7 days. Um, but that's because he wasn't eating, and at the time he was not on Pediasure. And one time when he was hospitalized, it was an intern, and she was like, does he drink Pediasure? And I said, no. And she said, well, let's try Pediasure. Um, and sometimes, as an OT, like at that time I was working with older adults. So I knew about Ensure, but I wasn't really thinking, well, there has to be an opposite, which would be Pediasure. Long story short, I started giving him Pediasure, and his health improved immensely. He was not catching colds every month. So if your child is not eating like they should, they don't have a balanced diet, supplement their diet with Pediasure. Okay. Um, Especially with the what's going on right now with the pandemic. They need to have the proper nutrients so they can have a strong immune system. But when it's time to eat, give them the Pediasure after. Let that be a reward, let's say around dinner time, because they're always going to be searching for that Pediasure. But I would have them interact with some food, some non-preferred foods, whether they have to touch it, make a face, or whatever. And then after that, give them some of the Pediasure, because they do have to be hungry. They have to be motivated to eat something. Okay, and that is it. I will be back next week, the same time, same place, 6:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Leave some comments in the comments section. Please let other parents know about this live, and I hope you have a great evening. All right. Okay. I will see you all next week.